The subject of this program is sexuality. It contains explicit images and content meant for a mature audience. Viewer discretion is advised. 19th century Egypt, near the Valley of the Kings, an extraordinary discovery is made. Contained within a fragile pot are some of the most graphic images from the ancient world. It would become known as the Turin erotic papyrus and would be one of the most controversial artifacts ever found from the ancient world.
It's full-on pornography, really.
Even by today's standards, the images on the 3,000-year-old papyrus are explicit.
If you sit and look at it, I think you have to be looking at one of the most shocking sets of images from the whole of antiquity.
How does this one discovery change our perception of ancient Egypt?
The Egyptians we tend to think of being much more buttoned up and repressed, but actually that's completely wrong.
What intimate messages are hidden among all the symbols, codes, and clues?
Egypt is the untold story of the ancient world. If we can decode the sexual mores, the customs, the morals, the laws of ancient Egypt, we can understand for the first time what was really happening between the sheets in ancient Egypt.
Turin, Italy. Among the collection of artifacts in the Egyptian Museum, the largest in the world outside Cairo, one item stands out. Papyrus 55001, more commonly known as the Turin erotic papyrus.
It's a very explicit sexual document from ancient Egypt. It's a very rare example because there aren't all that many of that kind.
Depicted within its fragments are images of 12 ordinary men and women in explicit sexual positions. For centuries, it was kept out of public view.
It was locked away in libraries and you had to go and register to look at it and have a very good reason for looking at it, and then it was only men. So in the Victorian times when it was published, women would have no good reason to go and look at something as filthy as the Turin papyrus.
The controversy that has always followed the Turin erotic papyrus has created a mystery. Even today, we don't know its true meaning. Does it portray the sex lives of the gods and provide a coded message to the afterlife? Is it part of an elaborate and mystical ritual of conception? Or is it simply a relic of everyday erotica? An ancient pornographic magazine? Now, for the first time on television, we will decode this ancient puzzle. By deciphering its images and symbols, we will discover its true meaning and gain a more intimate view of the sexual lives of ancient Egyptians.
By looking at the data we have for ancient Egyptian sexuality, we get a sense of the people as they actually were, with the same issues, the same emotions, the same desires as us. And I think that view of them is much more interesting than just seeing them as strange, exotic figures dominated by mummies, myths, magic, and pyramids.
For centuries, the sex lives of ancient Egypt were overshadowed by other civilizations.
The Greeks and the Romans have the reputation for being very lustful societies, and that's partly because of the evidence that they've left behind. We see orgiastic scenes on their dinner services or bestial action on tombstones.
The full view of ancient Egypt was obscured.
The ancient Egyptians were a very sensuous, sensual society. For an ancient Egyptian, it was very, very important that you were an actively sexual creature.
It was a cover-up, aided by historians themselves. Sexual artifacts recovered from ancient Egypt were often subject to censorship.
We've lost some of the sexuality from the ancient world. In Italy, for example, the popes decreed that all genitalia should be covered up with fig leaves. And in the Victorian period as well in the UK, this was not something which people wanted to see.
One such example is the mutilated statue of Min, the Egyptian god of fertility, kept at the British Museum. Significantly, the statue is missing one important item.
During the Victorian era, the penis would be removed in order to save the blushes of people visiting the museum. There's also another example of Amun Min, but on a wall inscription.
In this case, Min's penis could not be removed. He had to be censored in a much more amusing way.
in the Petrie Museum. The penis was covered up with the museum number, nicely put over it, again so that no one would actually see such a disgraceful thing in the public eye.
Even today, some sexual images are kept hidden from the public. Close to where the Turin erotic papyrus was discovered on the west bank of Thebes, there is an archaeological site, 3,000 years old, kept secret from thousands of visitors nearby. It contains one of the earliest slanderous pornographic images in history, and it remains concealed in a cave. Not simply due to the nature of the image itself, but because of whom the image is thought to depict: Hatshepsut, one of ancient Egypt's few female rulers.
It's possible that it's the oldest piece of sexual graffiti in the world. It's certainly not the oldest image of people having sex, but possibly the oldest piece of graffiti showing this kind of act.
The drawing is located on the site of a temple in honor of the queen. Creating such a sexually explicit image would have been dangerous for the artist.
An image of the queen in a sexual position was a serious no-no, for sure, and would have been something that had to be hidden away, something that the person would probably get in serious trouble for if they were found out.
Due to the controversial nature of this graffito, few academics have accessed the cave. For this program, we have been given permission to investigate this unique archaeological site.
They block up the site to keep visitors out, and